We start to explore into the first 5 consciousnesses. The eyes, the ears, the eyes consciousness, which is vision, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, the first 5. And how do we study them? We study them according to 8, 9 categories. How do these consciousnesses perceive the world? How do worlds appear to our eyes, to our ears, to our nose, to our tongue, to our touch? And how do we get to know how does each consciousness get to understand, get to know the moral nature, realms of activities, and then concomitant mental functions, necessary preconditions for these consciousnesses to work? How does each consciousness function, spiritual transformation towards enlightenment? How did the Buddha teach us to transform this tainted consciousness into pure enlightenment? And then after transformation, how do the transformed person, the enlightened person, lead sentient beings to enlightenment? We already have touched a little bit on 1, 2, 3. Now let's continue again. The world can be perceived in 3 ways, hence the 3 states. All 3 states are involved in direct perception of the senses. Senses are veridical. It's a direct perception of what is in front of us. We usually use the word factual. You are in front of me, I perceive you, I see you. Everything here, veridical perception. So the world can be perceived, or the world appear in 3 states. Why did the Buddha tell us all these? It seems to be very academic, very psychological, and very theoretical. No. The Buddha told us the world is unreal. It's not a real world, but you perceive it as real. How did the world, the 3 states, appear to us? The first state, the state of real objects, the absolute reality as it is seen, heard, smelled, tasted, and touched. For example, a raccoon gave out pungent, very bad smell. You smelled it, I smelled it, everybody smelled it. Unless your nose is not functioning, that's veridical state of real objects. I see this building, everybody see it, unless your vision is distorted, unless your vision is, you don't have any vision, you see things. This is real objects. That's the first state of the world. They appear as real. This is, you can see, you can smell, you can touch all these. That's the first state. The second state is the state of distorted objects. They can still contain a little grain of truth in it. For example, if I see from a distance at the corner that I see a cow with horns, and I thought there was a lion. You distort the object. We usually see things this way. A car coming in that direction, I saw. It's not a car, it's a cow, because that car is a strange car with 2 horns coming out. I thought there's a cow. So that's distorted. You distort. It's not the factual. You distort the fact. But it still contains a grain of truth. A little bit of this true, because that is not a cow, that is a deer, there's not a ghost, that is a human. You still contain a little bit of truth. You just distort it. Third one is simply out of your imagination. For example, in your dream, it's simply out of your imagination. You're sitting in here, you close your eyes, you're meditating, a sense of depression swelled up in your mind. and you thought of your abusive childhood. You hated it. So all these imaginations got up in your mind, swelled up in your imagination. You hated it, and that induced your hatred hormones to act. That induced your amygdala in your brain to act. You actually imagine all these things. You're in a room. You're in a cafeteria with your friends, and a lot of people there, and people stared at you, and you thought, they stared at me because they thought I don't look good. I'm ugly. That's the way people see me. I'm not good looking. That's the reason why when people look at me, they look at it with a strange way. When my in-laws talk to me, they talk to me as if they hate it, they despise me because I don't have any value. You created all these things. Like a depressed individual create images, create feelings that they thought that's the way they look at me. They must look at me negatively. Because I'm negative. You don't know that you're negative, and you think that people look at you negatively. You think people attach no value to you. You're valueless. You're hopeless. You can't do anything. That's imagination. So those are the three, comprehensively, the three states that you perceive things. And I would like to ask you a question. Out of these three states, which state is real? Right? Which state is real? Tell me. Which state is, say, real? That's really real. Which state? Which state? Let's get back to the first one. Which state is real? Huh? The first state? Yes. The Buddha laid out all these states to you, and the Buddha said, even the first state is not real. You know why it is not real? What's the meaning of reality? Everything I see right now is conditional creation. You are here, I look at you, you appear in front of me. Who are you made up of? You're made up of conditional body and mind. I may not see you tomorrow. So you have a temporary existence now. Everything is on causation, everything is impermanent, everything has disintegration. But we, as an enlightened individual, we're attached to them. We know they are not permanent, but we like to think that they are permanent. That's the reason why we want to keep them, we want to safeguard it. We want to protect the self-interest. I have an ego, because you look at things as if they are real. When somebody scolded at you with no reason, his words hit your eardrums. They are real, real sound, real reprimand. A reprimand that makes you angry, that makes you create vengeance. But are they really real? They're made up of frequency. They're made up of some words that is distorted by the individual who passed these words into your eardrums. But you got mad. You wanted to yell. You wanted to shout. You wanted to hurt. Or even you want to kill. You want to injure. You act on these because you think these words are real. The words are meaningless. But it gets into your mind. You make up all this meaning. The words themselves don't kill you. It's you, your own consciousness, kill you. You understand what I mean? The sound itself is nothing. But if somebody gave you the bad language, the four-letter word, for example, you really get mad. But the four-letter word themselves, they're harmless. But when it gets into your mind, it becomes very harmful. Because you thought that your ego is being hurt, your respect is being hurt. You act, you get violent. So even the first state is not real. You see why the Buddha teaches all these things? They want to point out to you all the facts and tell you that where did we go wrong? How do we perceive the world? So, here comes my second question. The eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and the body perceive, right? How do they perceive? They perceive the first state, or the second state, or the third state. Usually. The first one. That's how the eyes. Because the eyes can make decisions. The eyes themselves that can make decisions. When the eyes see a buffalo there, he thought it's a buffalo, but actually it's a horse. It's a deer. But the eyes don't make that decision, that's a horse, that's a deer. The eyes is just a camera. If you study biology, you know that. The pupil reflected the image into, the image got reflected with the light, with the conditions of light. It reflected into your pupil, and then you got that image. But your eyes themselves would not say, this is a man, this is a woman, this is a cow. The eyes themselves, they don't make the decisions. Your eardrums don't make the decisions. Your eardrum would not say that's music, that's classical, that's rap, that's pop, you know. Your eardrums, no. So your eyes, your ears, your nose, they don't make decision. They don't make decisions as, oh, this is perfume, this is a pungent bad smell. They don't make decisions. So the Buddha said, the first five senses fall into realizing, percepting the first state. Of course, as we said before, even the first state is not real, but put aside that. The first five senses that we're exploring now, the Buddha said in his verses that the first five senses belong to the first state. Everybody understand? If you don't understand, raise your hand. Okay, second. So, okay, then we know that. Then how does each consciousness of the five get to know things? How do they know? Okay, let's get to the modes of knowledge. The subject, the perceiving components, has three types of knowledge, three types of knowing. The perceiving component is all the five senses. The world is being perceived. So the perceiving and the perceive. You know, the subject and the object. How do each consciousness get to know things? The first one is direct veridical perception. The first five perceptual consciousness give a truthful picture of reality. You see an apple, you are hearing the river flows, that's what's happening here and now. This direct perception, that's your eyes, your ear, nose, but that direct perception. The second one is inference. It is an assumption based on perception. It is a process of deriving logical thinking of assumed premises, or the process of arriving at some conclusion that possesses some degree of probability relative to the premises. That is what your sixth consciousness thinks upon interaction of the first five consciousnesses which have sensed the object. For example, this apple I see will taste good. So in other words, inference is rationalization, intellectualization. It weighs out all the probabilities. It gets back to the old files, dig up the old files immediately, remember, judge, analyze, rationalize. Your cerebral cortex, that is your learning brain. There's a rational brain. You got that brain. However, that brain, the rational, the cerebral cortex, differs from person to person according to your education, your background, your personality. So everybody's rationalization is different. Everybody's intellectualization is different. Everybody's analysis is different. But somehow you maintain certain level within, that society to live in. Next, fallacy, dreams and hallucinations. Fourth, knowledge from saints and trustworthy source. What is fallacy? Fallacy is going through your rationalization and your intellectualization and an analysis. Sometimes your rationalization is false. It's a fallacy. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's wrong. If at that corner so far away I saw a cow, I thought that's a cow, there's actually a deer. So I make the wrong inference. So that's a fallacy. If I see something, I judge that's a cow, that's really a cow, that's not a fallacy. That's not fallacy anymore. And fallacy also includes in your dreams. So that's how consciousness get to know, get to believe. So you believe in something through direct vertical perception. You believe in something through inference, which is rationalization and intellectualization. And sometimes if it is wrong, it becomes a fallacy. If it is not wrong, it becomes a real fact. You believe everything in this way. The fourth is you get to know and believe it because somebody told you. You know something through a trustworthy, you think trustworthy, or really trustworthy source. That's how you believe in things. If your dad told you, well, direct veridical perception is through your own senses. You actually see them. Then you believe in it. But some people usually say, I only believe in things I actually see. I only believe in things I actually heard, I actually taste. Is that really true? If you only believe in things that you actually can see, can hear, can touch, then there are many things you shouldn't have believed in. Have you seen your great-grandfathers? You haven't. But you believe you have a great-grandfather. Do you actually have to see your great-grandfather? You didn't have a chance because he lived 100 years ago. So you believe in things not only through direct veridical perception, you believe in things through rationalization. So for some people it's illogical when they tell you that, I don't believe in that, I don't believe in reincarnations, I don't believe in ghosts because I haven't seen ghosts. I don't believe in something that's some sound explosion 3 miles away. I don't believe in that. Even if everybody told me, I don't believe in that because I didn't hear it. But I'm sorry, you're wrong. Because your audible senses is not better than even a dog. A dog can hear 3 miles away, and you can only hear half a mile away. So even your senses lead you astray. Don't believe in your own senses sometimes. So what do you believe in? So these are the ways that you believe in things, you know things. Getting back to people who like to always to say, how does this help me in my daily life? How does it help me in whatever I'm doing? It helps you to analyze what is right and what is wrong. It even helps you in your discussion with people. If some people say, I only believe in things I veridically perceive, well, you're illogical. But there are many things that you haven't seen, but they're real. They're really facts. Are there anyone in here who are elderly enough to see the father of the present Prime Minister? The present Prime Minister is Justin Trudeau. The father of Justin Trudeau is Pierre Trudeau. Have you seen him? No, you have seen him because you're elderly enough, right? But some people have never seen Pierre Trudeau. You haven't seen him. Do you believe him existed before? He did. But if you say, I only believe things I hear, I heard, I taste, you're illogical in your thinking. So if the Buddha told me this is what it is, if I believe in it, is that superstitious? No. Because one of the 4 ways is knowledge from saints and trustworthy source. The Buddha told me this is what it is. And through analysis and rationalization, I believe in him. You understand? So that's how your senses believe. Next. And the eyes, the ears, the nose, the body, and the tongue, each consciousness has a certain moral nature in it. In other words, each sense, when they interact with the world, from the moral perspective, morality perspective, they have certain nature. What are these natures? None of the 5 perceptual consciousness contain the potential for making moral distinctions. So each one is per se indeterminate in nature. But it interacts with the 6 consciousness simultaneously and creates wholesome, unwholesome, and indeterminate deeds. In other words, the eyes do not contain the potential for making moral judgments. The eyes themselves, it's the 6 consciousness that make the decision is this is wholesome, this is good, this is bad, this is neutral. The eyes themselves, the first 5 consciousness, they don't make moral distinctions. Something is good morally, something is bad morally, and whatever falls outside the good and bad is neutral. We call them neutral. And of course, there are more wholesome than unwholesome. There are more unwholesome than wholesome. It's the degree. But generally, this is what it is. Getting back to the same question again. How does knowing this help me in my enlightenment? How does knowing these things help me in my enlightenment? Knowing these things would trigger something in your mind. Behind the 5 consciousnesses, there is a manager there who makes all these decisions. There's a manager there who's more powerful. All my senses are only the tools. I got to explore into that something that is very powerful, and he makes the decisions. If I understand the manager, I would know a lot. If I understand that manager, I will know how to interact with that company, with the salesman, with all that is related to the salesman and to the company. All right, so these are the moral distinctions. And then we say, okay, the first 5 consciousness, what kind, moral distinctions do they make wholesome? Are they wholesome, unwholesome, or indeterminate? Any answer? They're indeterminate. Because the eyes don't make the decisions. They're neutral. The eyes say, I don't care whether this is, I don't care this is bad or good. I'm neutral. I don't have that ability to make the decisions. I'm neutral. Okay, so that's the 3rd category for a moral perspective. And then next, before we go for lunch, what realms of activities the 5 consciousness fall into? What does that mean? The first 5 consciousness, in what realms they work. Then you first have to understand what the realms mean. If we can say the whole universe, but actually the whole universe, quote unquote, has 3 strata in it. Kamadhatu, Rupadhatu, and Arupadhatu. 1, 2, and 3. Say, forget about this top first. 1, 2, and 3. This is the world with material and desire. That's the Kama Dhatu. Dhatu means ram. The second level, Rupa Dhatu, Sejie. There's no more form and there's no more desire in the second level. The third level, even material don't exist. Only the spiritual exists in 3 levels. And as the level go higher and higher, happiness increase. And some religious people refer to for this level and this level, they refer to them as heavens. So there's so many heavens. There's not only one heaven. There are how many heavens? Roughly 22 heavens. Each heaven has its degree of happiness. We are now in this Kama Dhatu, which is a mixture of happiness and sadness, a mixture of suffering, tribulations, and sometimes bliss. We don't always suffer, but sometimes we feel good about it. But basically, most of the time, we have suffering. Rebirth, do we have rebirth? Aging, sickness, death, departure from beloved ones. Your beloved dad, your mom, your brothers and sisters. Some people have them die prematurely, or whatever you pronounce it. Living with hated ones. Some people you don't like to live with, but you have to live with them. Husband and wife, they don't love each other, but because of the children, they want to stay with each other, but they dislike each other. In a company, colleagues, stabbing people's back, tattletailing, you hate them, but you still have to work in that company because you have nowhere else to go to. You have to make a living, so you have to live in that company. So living with hated ones, suffering arising from the 5 skandhas, all these. That this is the level that we live in. And we have 6 paths of reincarnations. Devas, Asuras, humans, animals, ghosts, and hells. We all reincarnate after we die. Reincarnate could be hell, could be ghosts, with animals, humans, Asuras, and Devas. What do we mean by Devas in here? Even this level have 6 heavens. But these heavens still have desires. They still have male and female desires. There are 6 heavens in there. So 22 plus another 6, altogether 28 heavens. But we're not in heavens, only the Devas are in heavens. But these heavens here are much higher level. Why do I bring this out? So where do our first 5 consciousnesses, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, act? Where are they active? They are active in here, in this realm. Your eyes, our eyes and nose and ear, they are very active in the world with desires and materiality. Active, yours, mine. We know our senses are active unless you lost them. You lost your vision, you lost your hearing, then of course you're not active. But basically, we are all active. Our first 5 senses are active. But, for example, in this level, the first jhana level, only the eyes, the ears, and the body, the touch is active. There's no more consciousness of the nose and the tongue. They don't exist anymore in these heavens, in the first jhana heaven. Why? They don't need to eat food like we do. They don't kill animals for food. They don't taste the lobsters, the cows, the pigs, the chicken. They don't kill them. They don't kill the animals for food. We kill animals for food in here. So they don't need the taste anymore. They don't need the smell. You think, oh, this smells good. They don't need them. The lesser first 5 consciousness you have, the happier you are. So they don't have the They don't have the nose and the tongue consciousness. And if you go to the second level, all the second level up, they don't have the first 5 consciousness. They don't need them. They are crude. They induce a lot of sufferings in it. So they don't need them. We are conscious with this kind of tainted consciousness because we are in a lower level. But heaven is not the way to go to. It's not your ultimate enlightened place. Because you still have to reincarnate. You have to what? Get out even from heaven. Even heaven is not ultimate. They still reincarnate. So you have to be at what level? In order to get out from suffering, you have to be at this level. Arahat Pratyeka Buddha and the Buddha. Or at this level, you are out from samsara, life and death, at this level. This is the enlightened level. This is the sentient being's suffering level. This is the enlightened being's blissful level. Okay? We'll have to stop for another month, I guess, till I return. Then we get on to other topics of the first 5 senses.